Hello and welcome, you go-to-market geniuses. This is video number 6 in a series intended to help B2B professionals better document their on-paper go-to-market strategies when selling everything, everywhere, all at once to restaurants. This is the 4th video in our 5-step approach to a go-to-market plan, with today's emphasis on how we segment the market. Our agenda will include furthering our TAM exercise from step 2 into SAM and SOM, reviewing the ICP checklist you didn't realize you already created in step 1, creating your V1 ICP, and we'll end on a quick temperature check to see how the strategy portion of this series panned out before we jump into action mode. Provided you've secured good TAM data and provided you've committed to ingesting it into your system of record, today's segmentation exercise is something you should be able to knock out in less than an hour. This includes ICP definition and application across your dataset to create actionable lists to disperse across teams. If it starts taking you longer than that, or if at any point you find yourself with a ton of VLOOKUPs across exported Excels, you skipped a step. Actually, you may have skipped 2 steps. I recommend you go back and review the importance of steps 2 and 3 to make sure you have reliable data and that you've ingested this data into your CRM for faster ongoing segmentation that considers variables like your updated customer list, recent activity, existing coverage models, and the like. I promise this video will still be here when you're ready. For the rest of you, let's get segmenting. In October 2021, I was helping a CEO and CFO prepare a board deck that basically showcased their go-to-market strategy. I remember we had one slide carved out to show their understanding of the TAM, along with a second slide showing the coverage model and how they plan to chase their existing ideal customer profile, or ICP for short. It had headcounts, it had quotas and territories, the whole 9 yards. All these years later, I still remember going through that specific exercise, but for 2 very different reasons. It was the first time I did a TAM to ICP exercise, which included the underlying data and a straightforward recommendation complete with actionable lists in the CRM in less than 15 minutes. It was based on up-to-date unit counts and tech stack details. It was basically my Mona Lisa, and it felt great. It was also the first time I'm guessing either of those 2 gentlemen had watched a go-to-market exercise happen real time and quickly. And out of the gate, they were like, yeah, no, you're missing a ton. That felt less great, but ultimately, in the end, I was right, so I guess it eventually felt great again. We left off talking about TAM, which is the widest lens of the industry you could possibly sell into. But if we're being honest with ourselves, because why wouldn't we, there's very little chance that your product or service will be sold to the restaurant industry in its entirety. I know that this sounds obvious, but every once in a while, I still come across a bullish founder who just doesn't want to swallow that pill. The process of breaking down and segmenting industry TAM into our ICP introduces 2 subsets into our data: who is serviceable, or SAM, and who is obtainable, or SOM. A TAM, SAM, SOM exercise helps businesses better understand their product or service's potential market size and growth opportunities given its current state of the business. It's worth noting here that in addition to questions like who is serviceable or obtainable, there are additional factors unique to your business that should and will affect your endgame ICP. These could include existing market competition, product differentiation, in-market pricing structures. Any knowledge you have on these matters should be brought to this table. Before we go any further, let's quickly define SAM and SOM. Serviceable available market, SAM, is the portion of the TAM that your business can realistically serve with its current resources and capabilities. Let me give you an example. Tens of thousands of restaurants in the United States are using a language that is not English as their primary language for operations. This means if you sell a software that is only available in English, this portion of the TAM would immediately be deemed unserviceable, as they have a need that you cannot fill in the immediate future based on where your business is at today. Other reasons a restaurant could be unserviceable might sound like they have unique state-level labor laws we don't cover, or they need a POS integration we don't currently have, which are just two of many examples you'll want to consider. A helpful way to approach the serviceable conversation may be to revisit the 7 attributes from the Speak the Market video and think through what portion of the industry we can set aside for the time being. Serviceable obtainable market, SOM, is an even smaller portion of your SAM that the business can realistically capture within a specific time frame given its competitive position and given its staffing and budgetary resources. Think about that last part and then consider this example. Back in the Finding the Market video, I shared my personal opinion on why single unit operators may be left out of your restaurant industry TAM. Now that we're talking about market segmentation in detail, here's some additional context to take that point a step further. For almost every company out there selling to restaurants, single units are unobtainable. It took Toast 12 years and literally hundreds and hundreds of sales reps to successfully outbound target these operators. And as of Q4 2022, their investor financial reporting listed total customer locations at 79,000 restaurants, a 40% increase from the prior year, meaning a significant portion of their growth has been recent. This 79K number, by the way, is their global footprint. That means that in 12 years, with that much budget and headcount, they've cornered maybe 10% of the available market in the US and Canada. Knowing this and knowing most of the companies I speak with average 2 sales reps for startups, 6 to 8 reps post-startup, and maybe 12 to 15 AEs when they're established and cruising, means roughly half of the industry, that is, operators with a single store, are going to be deemed unreachable at scale, whether you like it or not. To be clear, you can still sell your product or service to single unit restaurants. I'm not saying this is off the table. What I am saying is that single units should likely be left out of both your go-to market and your ICP, because by definition, both are designed to help maximize your speed and momentum into the market. And unfortunately, selling to single units just isn't a viable path forward. Aside from single unit operators that are unreachable at scale, other reasons why you may leave a restaurant out of your SOM could be the distance from your headquarters or production facility if you have to ship them product, or a competitor that has cornered a portion of the market, making it difficult to get agreements signed. With our SAM and SOM definitions hammered out, we're finally ready to talk about ICP. Just because a restaurant is deemed serviceable and obtainable doesn't mean it's a match for our outbound effort and energy. To kick off the ICP definition exercise, I want to mention that there are 2 paths forward, which you'll hear me refer to as factual ICPs and aspirational ICPs. These aren't generally accepted industry terms, by the way. They just help me get my point across. A factual ICP, to me, consists of grouping together your best customers and grabbing the common traits or attributes that define them. Then you'd simply find lookalike brands or concepts in the industry and target them with the same hypothesized value proposition, or with a customer voice campaign where your client spells out the problem they had and how you helped them solve it. An aspirational ICP, by way of comparison, would be for customers who are either pre-revenue, meaning they lack the customer base to help define where they're winning the best deals, or in instances where companies want to target a portion of the industry that currently lacks a solution or that they desire to service, meaning they want to define where they want to be in the market rather than where they are currently winning deals. An example of this would be a company who perhaps has a slew of SMB customers but wants to begin targeting upmarket brands that have a similar problem to the one their business knows how to solve. Whether you choose to build a factual or aspirational ICP, the path forward is the same. And if you want to build both, just do the next part twice. Earlier in this series, we spent quite a bit of time aligning the way we talk about the restaurant industry. At the time, I told you this was important to avoid confusion or frustration when talking about the market in general. That's true. Then, later on, we learned that those same 7 attributes were important because they scale when finding the market intelligence to fuel your go-to-market strategy. Quite the coincidence, right? But now, as if this conspiracy was somehow planned all along, we have a third and final reason why we should align the way we talk about the industry with those 7 definitions, and it's because, to me, they represent the fastest way to spell out a V1 ICP now that we're finally here and ready to do so. For companies who target restaurants, these 7 attributes are intended to be a literal checklist used to define, in writing, the portion of the obtainable market that we will call our ICP. Size, offering, service type, ownership, territory, life cycle, and tech stack. Now, you may choose to reorder these based on what is more or less important to your business, but it's important that you spell out as many of these as possible each time you revisit your ICP. Let me show you how I'd use the checklist to create a factual ICP in a fictional scenario that I'm totally making up for teaching purposes. Let's say I'm a sales rep at a software company whose last case study announced wild success it was having with P. Terry's Burger Stand. That concept's fact sheet looks and sounds like this. P. Terry's Burger Stand. Size, 28 units, mid-market. Offering, chicken and burgers. Service type, LSR. Ownership, none. No parents, no franchisees. Territory, predominantly in and around Austin. Life cycle, growing number of units, negligible closures, an emerging brand, you could say. Tech stack, their website has detectable mobile apps, a feedback or sentiment provider, gift cards, applicant tracking, a loyalty provider, and a detectable online ordering partner. Assuming this fake software company has other customers with a similar DNA, their ICP is pretty easy to derive from these attributes. Size, likely targeting SMB or mid-market. Offering, no specific requirement. Service type, LSR. Ownership, not part of anything bigger that has 100 or more locations. Territory, United States. Life cycle, no specific requirement. We'll say growing is a plus. Tech stack, if we know their loyalty provider, it's a plus. Here, we've defined 5 of the 7 attributes where we more or less have requirements for our ICP. Because I've invested in incredible market intelligence data in step 2 and integrated it into my CRM in step 3, I can plug this in and see what comes out on the other side of the equation. In 2 minutes, I was able to create a list of 2,165 lookalike brands that control 37,017 restaurant locations, all matching our criteria. In another 2 minutes, I could tell you that 410 of them have an existing detectable loyalty provider. And in just 2 more minutes, I'll tell you which ones are customers, which have activity in the last 30 days, and so on. All in, we're still under 10 minutes and have enough data to turn our strategy into an action plan. Now, I need to stop myself here because I'm getting a bit ahead of what we should be focusing on. The point is, if you choose to follow this recommended go-to-market exercise literally, as in procuring data that meets your needs, integrating it into a system that is meaningful, and then segmenting the market using scalable definitions, you've implemented a system that is predictable, accurate, and one that finally moves at the speed of your operations needs. Let's take a step back and do another example. What if I had a killer gluten-free pizza crust and wanted to get it out into the market? Let's pretend I'm limited to places I can reach in a day with samples or ship product to without giant fees, which fictitiously is anything in Washington state. And I don't have a huge production facility, so we have to avoid giant orders for now. Here we go. Size, 2 to 5 units is probably comfortable. Offering, Anyone with pizza on the menu is ideal, but maybe anyone who advertises themselves as vegan or vegetarian friendly. Service type, doesn't matter. Ownership, not part of a group with more than 6 units. Territory, must have multiple locations in Washington state. Life cycle, none. Tech stack, none. 39 multi-unit brands match that ICP and therefore have a heightened hypothesis of need, which could get my fake product into 106 restaurants in my target market. I'd argue that 39 accounts, which also took me only 2 minutes to identify, is a realistic number of accounts to cover and would be worth the effort. By comparison, I'd argue that an unqualified Excel list of all restaurants in Seattle is demonstrably less helpful both strategically and in terms of actionability. Stay with me, I want to do one more. I'm a sales rep and it's my first day of work. I sell kiosk hardware to SMB businesses that are expanding in the Southeast. We sell into businesses with iPad POSs, as it's a complimentary service with a really easy talk track. Ready? Here we go. Size, 6 to 20 units. Offering, sandwiches are a plus, but really anything. Service type, LSR. Ownership, Goldilocks zone, nothing too big, nothing too small. Territory, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. Life cycle, added at least 1 unit in the past 6 months. Tech stack ideally has Toast or Revel. I now have 13 target accounts with 150 total units to prioritize. It took me 2 minutes to identify them, and I could put in a call to all 13 by the end of the day. So how'd we do? Ideally, by this point, you should be staring at a written down or typed out ICP made up of words with letters. The ICP exercise is intended to be followed literally, meaning you shouldn't exit the strategy portion of your go-to-market exercise and wander into the execution stage, the final stage, without having this down pat. With the right market segmentation, it should be easy to answer questions like, which market segments are we going to target? How should we allocate our internal resources? And where should we prioritize our efforts? ICP represents the last step in your strategy because once you have a targeted list of ICP prospects, you're ready to jump into action mode and start accelerating your speed to market. But that's for the next video. For today, it's ciao for now.